This screencast is to go over stylistic characteristics of Islamic art. So this still goes under historical context and then draw a line under that and put stylistic characteristics. And there's definitely some things about, just like with early Christian art, that will typify what is Islamic art. And so that's what this screencast is for. So we'll start off, first of all, in the last screencast, I showed you all those different regions that Islam covered. So there's a lot of territory that had a variety of long-standing traditions. So we end up seeing a combination of lots of different techniques in art and architecture. So there will be a lot of highly localized styles that develop. And then as Muslims conquer new territory, they would adapt local techniques and usually with the intent of outdoing previous structures. And we'll definitely see that with the Mosque of Salim when we get to it. So the stylistic characteristics we'll see mostly in either their palace or in mosque architecture. It's very typical. Every mosque has specific characteristics that we're going to go over in a few minutes. Another thing that's important is that there's a lot of non-figural ornamentation. And that's because in the Islamic faith, they believe that they should focus on the word of God, not anything that projects any type of image. So while technically images aren't banned like they had done under the Byzantines with the iconoclasts, it's more of a tradition. So most Islamic art is going to be non-figural, and that will include geometric forms, arabesques, abstractions of organic forms, and then there'll also be a lot of vegetal forms, so it looks like kind of like vegetation. But calligraphy is considered that one of the highest arts if you're talking about the like paintings or like in this case writings. Calligraphy can be sometimes readable, but sometimes it's made into complex patterns that are unreadable. It kind of depends on what you're looking at or what the intent was. All calligraphy is done in Arabic, since Arabic is the language of the Quran. And in Islam, words have a very spiritual meaning, and they take the place of images of God or saints, and that's why that's significant. They also include arabesques, which are decorations based on rhythmic linear patterns and geometric orientation. Islamic art is very mathematical and it's very stylized, and that's done with a lot of intent. And so most Islamic artists are going to be highly trained in both math and in art. Okay, other characteristics we see will be monumental architecture. And we see a balance of symmetry. Balance and symmetry in monumental architecture. Also, we're going to see horseshoe arches, which actually were adapted from earlier cultures, but we mostly associate horseshoe arches. This is similar to one. But definitely in the Mosque at Cordoba is a typical horseshoe arch. So we'll talk about that. Also, ogival arches as well. Hypostyle halls are in every mosque. So a lot of different columns within. Large open spaces, because mosques are prayer halls. So that's definitely something that we see in every part of the architecture of mosques. And then, and that develops as the initial practice of Muslims. Early followers worshipped in Muhammad's house with a covered roof and supported by palm tree trunks. This simple style leads to simple mosques that didn't need all the different components like they did in Christian churches based on Christian liturgical practices. For the Islamic faith, you only needed an imam, I-M-A-M, who is the leader, to lead the faithful in prayer. There's no full priesthood and clergy, so they didn't need to have the rituals that the Christian theology had. Another feature are makarnas. It's spelled M-U, it's on the screen. But makarnas are small niche-like components that are stacked in successive units. It's an architectural feature that is significant in holding weight, particularly as they're trying to incorporate the dome in a lot of the different mosques that we'll see, particularly in the Ottoman period. Okay, so for Islamic architecture, here is kind of the basic outline. Mosques are used for both worship in a form of personal prayer, but they also become centers for learning. It's not uncommon after a prayer session to have someone speak about a particular topic. So mosque architecture is based on the original place of Islamic learning, and that was Muhammad's house, his home. So his house had a large courtyard that was surrounded by long rooms that were supported by columns. And then this will influence the hypostyle hall inside mosques, which are common to many of the mosques. Another typical feature that we talked about with the Hagia Sophia are the minarets, and those are used as a call to prayer when prayer is announced, and it also serves as a visual reminder of Islam. This is a very important feature right here. This is the mihrab. This is, as I said before, a very important feature. You need to know what a mihrab is. It is a niche, N-I-C-H-E, that is in every mosque that indicates the direction of Mecca. So every mosque has a mihrab, and some of them are going to be highly decorated and very beautiful. And then we have the Qibla, which is, the Qibla would be the wall, the whole wall in which the mihrab is on, and that's often the most decorated part of the mosque. Right here is the minbar. The minbar would be like a pulpit where sermons would be delivered from. So the minbar is, here we go. The minbar would be so that the person who is giving the speech, usually the imam or someone else that is giving the speech, is standing high above the people who are praying, and it would be typically next to the mihrab. Outside, so here you could see the this whole area would be considered the mosque area. But outside we'd have a courtyard, and they would often have ablution fountains. And those were used for washing before entering the mosque. And many mosques have domes. Not all of them do, but many of them do. And that serves, the dome is supposed to be a symbolic representation of the vault of heaven. The sites that do have a dome, the dome is often placed above the Qibla wall. So this gives you a diagram of the Prophet's house in Medina in Saudi Arabia. So this would be Muhammad's house and what it looked like. And then eventually we will see a lot of the mosques mirror this basic plan, and then some do get pretty elaborate. So that's it for stylistic characteristics, and for each mosque I talk about, a lot of these terminologies or vocabulary words are going to come up. So, make sure you guys read the first page of your context guide, because it has a lot of important information that may show up on your test questions.